They didn't even believe in us. God did. See, your brain is a sponge. We want to absorb as much information as possible in an effort to outwork our potential. This is how you can reinvent your life in 9 steps or less. Number 1. Every time you level up, your old life will try to call you back. Don't answer. Every time we get a little bit more money, we become that much harder to control. And when you get harder to control, big institutions, corporate America, the government, they don't like that. You know, people want a controllable collection of human beings. And I think that's a huge reason why people don't talk openly and candidly about money. Because the general population has become programmed to be more like malleable sheep. Like you, low income or no income person, let me give you some charity because you can't get your life together and figure it out. But instead, we should be saying, you are just as capable as I am. And I would probably be you if I walked enough miles in your shoes. So instead, why don't I transfer some knowledge? Because that's where money starts. Les Brown, he was a member of the Ohio House of Representatives. He said, do what is easy and your life will become hard. Do what is hard and your life will become easy. The capabilities that humans hold in their mental strength are almost boundless. Would you believe me if I told you there are easy, undemanding ways into tricking your own mind into doing just about anything? But with mental strength comes sacrifice. And unfortunately for us as human beings, if you really want to get out of your mentally damaging addictions, you're gonna have to work. And there's gonna be some harsh takes on life, but you can certainly learn to endure it. And within learning that, you elevate significantly into like a newborn human being. And that's why you should focus in on this vlog and give me a few minutes of your time to focus in on a single topic to start with, which is doom scrolling. Doom scrolling in a world of instant gratification. Assalamu alaikum friends, it's Ali and welcome back to the vlog. See, all of us, we're able to sit down with our phones for hours, scrolling on our phones with our complete attention on a single screen. But what differentiates us from doing this so effortlessly for long periods of time instead of other tasks like reading books or working? And the answer is, it's the dopamine levels in our body, straight and simple. Dopamine is often referred to as a pleasure molecule. What it truly makes us do though is basically desire one thing over another thing. And that desire is what motivates us to complete certain tasks. We as humans are so drawn into receiving instant gratification. And social media plays a huge role in giving us that feeling. Look, we don't even realize it, but we're getting addicted from going from one thing to another thing seamlessly and quickly. And we become addicted to easy clicks, going from one place to another place in seconds, receiving bright red hearts and comments from people you haven't even talked to in years. This is what is expected of you though. Consumerism forces us into this never-ending cycle of wanting us to gain attention from people online. Meanwhile, we're so distracted to the point where it almost feels like our liberties are being stripped from us. Like our full potentials are long gone, unheard of, and our work ethic is lost somewhere in between. So I want to tell you about this Skinner's box. There's this really interesting study that was done at Harvard by a psychologist by the name of B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner was a Harvard graduate student and psychologist. And he compared the human behavior of loving servitude to the way that a rat will work better when rewarded with food. His experiment, very widely known through psychological studies and in psychological classes when teaching students in psychology, is referred to as Skinner's box. It represents the idea that with negative reinforcement, rats would react negatively and decrease their level of work. When rewarded with food, however, the rats became far more productive as they kept wanting more and more. This small representation allows for a deeper message. Our little habits and addiction to our screen time is distracting us from reality, as we can so easily suppress our own feelings, ignore them, and live inside an idealistic world, while our freedom is being snatched away from our eyes within an instant. And with everything that attracts us to our screens, we can find ways to break out of these bad habits. So here's a couple of solutions. First off, I would suggest the dopamine detox. While there can be some extreme suggestions of this method, I highly believe that a slow start leads to consistent results and long-term success. Detaching yourself completely from external sources may be too difficult at first, and it might lead to a huge craving in order to go back to older habits. When I say those external sources, I'm referring to the internet, your phone, your computer, music, junk food, smoking, bad habits. So instead of feeding these external dopamine receptors, the best thing to do is try to find internal sources of gratification. These things come from things that are within your control. For example, going on a walk, meditating, praying, reflecting, exercising, journaling. Find one good habit and replace it with a negative one. So when you get the urge to do a negative habit, you know that you're consistent and you're disciplined, and you can replace that very easily with a better habit. For example, instead of spending so many hours on your phone doom scrolling, put it away and get a home workout in. It could be anything. This is just an example, because we all have different attributes which allow us to have more desire over certain things. Like, for example, you might prefer to paint or cook or play an instrument. Whatever that may be though, setting a goal for us to improve at that hobby or that activity will more likely allow us to want to do it more, hence leaving our phones for longer periods of time. Our dopamine tolerance is what allows our bodies to adapt to any type of environment. For example, if you live in a place like Florida, in the heat for a very long period of time, your body will feel cold at the slight hint of a breeze. But if for a week you live in the snow, your body will soon adapt to the cold. And it really works the same way for establishing a routine with those healthier habits. The second thing is the power of control. With discipline comes great sacrifice, because there's times in our life where, look, we can't rely on motivation as a reason to get to work, because there are voices in our head that'll do the best they can in order to drag us back down, back into the deep hole of addiction to instant gratification. That's when getting out of bed becomes a huge task, just because of that voice, that inner voice in our heads, reminding you of all the easier things that you could be doing, which is just laying down in bed. And look, we've all been there. We have all been a victim of that voice, and there's no shame in that. But one strategy in fighting those negative thoughts and those negative voices is mastering your emotions. There's a quote by Eliud Kipchoge where he says, "Only the disciplined ones in life are free. If you are undisciplined, you're a slave to your moods and your passions." Which leads me into the third solution, which is mastering your emotions. You have to simply accept that it'll never be easy. Something that I noticed is when I had a Gallup day where I stayed in bed too late and I would scroll through my screen, those are the days where I had the most difficulty in falling asleep that night, because my mind had been distracted with all different types of noises, colors, and mixed emotions. And they all got messed up and lost within each other. And my motive for getting off the phone, to neglecting all the things that I know I'm prone to do, was to have good sleep that night. And ultimately, I mentally felt better. But you have to find your own motive. As a soccer athlete, both in high school and in college, there were days where I absolutely hated getting up before the sun rose, especially in the winter when it was cold and brick in Long Island. But eventually I forced myself into doing it so many times, I reached a point where I no longer felt emotion when I got up and got ready to go. I was able to adapt. So I didn't see it for the hard duty that it was, but I saw it for the excitement that I knew I was gonna get when I got out there, got on the field, started running, started my warm-ups, and started working out and started playing. This is the beauty of controlling the mind. Being able to get yourself to do all these great things and not question how you did them. And you have to keep humbling yourself. You're not the main character and nobody cares about your accomplishments. That truth may be hard to accept, but it's relevant to your way of thinking and the way you perceive the world. Allow yourself to progress over long periods of time and teach yourself how to be patient, because there is no rush. People who want the easy way out will always ask, how do I get abs fast? Stop talking, start concentrating on your abs. Do the hard work. That's how you do it. Because it isn't supposed to be fast. There's a quote by Frank Outlaw. He was a business person in the 1960s with Winn-Dixie. He was a business executive. He said, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. The fourth thing I would suggest is the power of journaling. Now, I know journaling is this trending thing all over the internet, but I want to discuss it in a way that's more realistic and a way you can apply it to your life. And through all my 12 years of journaling, which I've done pretty consistently, year after year, I've noticed a pattern. I've always referred to my little writings as like a certain theme. They each fall into certain categories. And I found these essential in keeping my emotions in check. And these categories are thoughts, notes, ideas, to-dos, and personal goals. Under thoughts goes everything. Like a dump of random stuff and like all the feels. And under my notes goes like everything that I've learned from maybe like a YouTube video or a podcast or from reading a book or even from learning something in person from another person like a mentor or somebody that I've talked to in business. And my to-do list, those are crucial. Those are like the things that I have to work on today or tomorrow because I always need to be aware of how my day will go. Like what are the things that you're working on today? And if you can't get them today, what are the things that you're gonna accomplish tomorrow? Lastly comes your personal goals. And that's the fun stuff, right? That's the exciting stuff. That's where like ambition and aspiration just merge together on paper.
Nice.
And these are the things that you desire for yourself within the coming months and years. And the more long-term your goal is, the better it is for you because you're able to map out and have established 5-year goals, for example, 10-year goals, for example. And I especially love writing those down because I can always come back to them and reflect on whether or not I was able to achieve them. And there's this thing when it comes to long-term goals, which is resistance. And resistance was envisioning the worst scenarios. Resistance was like taking it all too seriously. None of it is really hard.
Come on, man. That's too easy.
It is only your resistance to it that is and feels hard. Like some things in life are genuinely hard, yes. Like being mauled by a wild bear. I'm sure that's really difficult, but most things in life are much less tough than we make them out to be. And when we truly grasp this, we are a leap closer to freedom. But how do we stop resisting and living again? For example, when a child dreams of their dreams and you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? They come and they typically will give you whatever their heart desires, even if you understand that maybe some of those things are not realistic at all, but they just spill it all out. It's because they have no resistance. So how do we go about having this childlike idea of no resistance and continue our life with these childlike ambitions and goals? And my suggestion to you is to see the thing for what it is, not for what your mind is telling you that it is. Fear is born out of uncertainty. So as we continue to age and we get older out of childhood, we feel resistance when we overcomplicate things or over-exaggerate things. And even worse, if you overcalculate your returns on investment, which is the reason why you need to always calculate that your ROI is going to be lower because of causes of business that drive down profit margins. And these things happen, so what? Suck it up and keep playing valiantly in the field of entrepreneurship. You may not come from a family of entrepreneurs, so you may not have necessarily been born for this, but you can certainly become built for this. And as a former investment banker at Credit Suisse in New York City, my suggestion is to always underestimate your returns and look at the most conservative model of success. Even if you break even, which is amazing, by the way, you will have learned a tremendous amount of life lessons in entrepreneurship. So when you're looking at this tall task and you're building this resistance, my suggestion is to break it down into small steps. And what does the first step look like? And is the first step worth doing? Don't overthink it, because the raw truth, which is like your gut feeling, will also show you what is worth doing. If something doesn't contribute to your growth, it is probably not worth your time. Another thing is, if you catch yourself emotionally reacting, use it as an opportunity to learn how to win. Reacting and stirring up the energy of emotion and thought is the source of 95% of your problems. I strongly believe this because I have been an avid spectator of my journey as well as others. And the stirring of emotions is almost always the reason for the downward spiral that leads to doom instead of building positive momentum. And when I say win, I mean to breathe instead of react, and to allow the emotion or the boredom or the thought to fizzle out by itself. Not to entertain the issue, not to get too attached, and not to ruminate. You gotta learn to let go. And we hear this a million times a day, but it is so crucial, so life-changing that it needs to be drilled into all of us. Become a ninja at letting go, guiding yourself again and again to the path of least resistance, which is to accept and move on. Being non-reactive does not mean to be passive. It doesn't mean like denying reality or to be someone who is emotionless. It means that you understand that in the field of entrepreneurship, darkness, pain, and frustration will always exist. But rather than feeding it, you let it fall aside. And this practice will improve your life more than any other change that you can make. With fewer stress chemicals swirling around, you are free to do and experience what matters to you. Life isn't so hard when you stop resisting it. Okay, before I jump and get back to work, I need to run you through the story real quick. And in this, I'm talking about using adversity to your advantage. If we use our life experiences properly, we can grow through adversity. And it's just a story about lobsters. Like literally, how do lobsters grow? Well, lobsters are a soft and malleable animal that live inside of a rigid shell. And listen, this rigid shell does not expand. Well then, how does the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell that it's in becomes very confining. And the lobster finds itself in a tremendous amount of pain, suffering from the confinement of pressure onto its body. And this is very uncomfortable for the animal. So it goes under a rock formation in order to protect itself, right? Because of survival of the fittest, it now needs to go into isolation and perform really difficult tasks on its lonesome. Because this is where the lobster goes into its season of no. Now, what would happen if lobsters had doctors to go to? You know, let's say the lobster had a $5 copay and can go to any doctor in order to get a professional opinion, and the doctor writes a prescription to the lobster to say, hey, here's a prescription for a drug that's not gonna allow you to feel the pain. Go to the drugstore and pick this up. If lobsters had doctors, they would never grow. As soon as they went to the doctor, they would cop a Percocet, cop a codeine, cop a hydrocodone, pop a codeine, hit a little morphine, tweak it on a Valium, drink some liquor, numb the pain. Now the pain's gone away. And now the lobster feels fine, never sheds off its shell. The takeaway here is that during times of stress and times of adversity, if the pain from these struggles is used correctly, it can help you focus on yourself and focus on better habits in isolation that you will utilize in order to help grow yourself into a bigger shell without having to use the fast stitch method of getting a prescription from a doctor that's gonna help you numb the pain away. Numbing the pain away is just a fast solution in order to allow you to escape the realities of life. But instead, you can create a more disciplined daily regimen, which will ultimately allow you to gain the space that you need to accomplish a tremendous amount of growth. Your mind will give up before your body does. Do you know what I mean by that? Your brain will say you're tired, stop, don't do any more of that. But your body can actually keep on going. But you gotta rewire your thoughts. See, your brain is a sponge, and you can perform mental exercises in order to strengthen your abilities. The now deceased and late Kobe Bryant, number 24 on the LA Lakers, he said that nowadays we know that in any environment we want to be a sponge, meaning that we want to absorb as much information as possible in an effort to outwork our potential. But in an effort to outwork your potential, this is how you can reinvent your life in 9 steps or less. Number 1, care about your appearance. Get a haircut. If you're bald, shave it off. If you're fat, get your body in shape. If you're super skinny, you need to add muscle to your frame. Dress like you care. Your body is your business card. But most importantly, you'll feel better by actually representing yourself as you would when you attend a wedding or a banquet. Let the rest of the world wear their pajamas outside. Bring your special thread out and don't appear to be a poor person if you're not. Number 2, choose a goal. Make it your health, career, finances, or relationship, and obsess over it. Get support and disappear for a while. Don't tell anyone, just work your tail off and let the results speak for themselves. And don't worry, the rest of the world will see those results too, if that's important to you. Number 3, put yourself on a routine. Choose one thing that you show up to every single day at the same time. Prayer, for instance, is an outstanding example of this. Don't follow your mood, follow your plan. Being consistent won't guarantee success, but being inconsistent will guarantee that you won't succeed at all. As my late father used to say, Allah yarhamak, may God rest his soul, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. Number 4, transmute your emotions. You're feeling angry, sad, bored, good. Use those emotions to fuel your mission. Emotion is actually an energy that you can use to accomplish your biggest goals. Use them. Number 5, you gotta get in the right rooms. Go to conferences, go to conventions in your industry, join masterminds, and speak with them. Ask the right questions. Be a part of communities who are trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve. But Remember to be the dumbest person in the room, meaning that never go into a situation or a room acting like you know it all. Always put yourself in a position where you feel like, I really don't know.
How? 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 I don't know.
And present yourself that way. If you do, people will continue to want to mentor you and teach you. Acting like you know everything, nobody wants to give you any kind of advice, and nobody wants to share what's been successful for them. Always be a sponge and always act and pretend like you have no idea. Being on social media helps, but it isn't enough. Show up in person and get around greatness. Number 6 is fix your mindset. The only one I know is I'll make it happen or I'll die trying. And guess what'll happen? You're gonna leave all the weak ones behind to get coal rolled because they gave up at the first sight of an obstacle. Believe and prostrate and put your head on the ground and beg God to give you an opportunity that changes your life. Believe you can figure this out, and you will. Lastly, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, I can't tell you how many people watch these videos but don't subscribe. If you like what you're seeing and you want to support what I'm doing here and you want to see more of this kind of content, please hit the subscribe button. It helps the algorithm and it helps me know that what I'm doing contributes to you and that it's appreciated and that you like what you're seeing. Thank you so much for your time and see you at the top. Peace. They didn't even believe in us. God did.